Welcome back to the channel. If you've been here for a while, you already know this space isn't about ego, hype, or pretending to have life perfectly figured out. This channel is about growth, responsibility, and becoming a man who is grounded in discipline and character. Today we're restarting a brand new series called The Fatherless Mindset, How Modern Men Survive Without a Map or Mentor. Now before we begin, this series is not about blaming parents or shaming families. Life is complex. Many fathers worked hard, many tried their best, and many men grew up with circumstances beyond anyone's control. But there is something happening quietly in modern society that we need to talk about honestly. A growing number of men are entering adulthood without a clear blueprint for manhood. No map, no mentor, no one explaining the rules of the road. So they do what humans have always done when guidance is missing. They improvise. And episode 1 is called Raised Without a Blueprint. Physical fatherlessness versus instructional fatherlessness. When people talk about fatherlessness, they often imagine only one thing: a father who is completely absent. But the truth is more complicated than that. There are many men who grew up with fathers physically present in the home, but still experienced what we might call instructional fatherlessness. A father may have been there, working hard, paying bills, and doing what he believed was right, but the actual transfer of knowledge about life, discipline, relationships, and responsibility never fully happened. Imagine a boy watching his father leave the house every morning before sunrise and come back late at night exhausted. The father is present in the structure of the home, but the boy never sees the inner workings of how a man thinks, decides, leads, and manages life. So the boy learns fragments instead of frameworks. He sees the outcome of manhood, but he never receives the instruction manual. It's like being handed a powerful machine without the user guide. The machine may still work, but the operator spends years learning through trial and error. Instead of understanding how the system was designed to function, instructional gaps create confusion that many men carry well into adulthood. Masculinity is learned through observation. Another truth about boys is that they rarely learn masculinity through lectures. They learn it through observation. A boy studies the men around him the same way an apprentice studies a master craftsman. He watches how they handle stress, how they respond to conflict, how they treat their responsibilities, and how they carry themselves when things go wrong. Imagine a young apprentice standing beside a master carpenter in a workshop. The apprentice doesn't just listen to instructions. He watches the small details. How the carpenter measures twice before cutting. How he steadies his hand before striking the nail. How he pauses when something doesn't look right. Those small observations shape the apprentice far more than a speech ever could. Now imagine that apprentice entering the workshop, and the master carpenter is never there. The tools exist, the materials exist, but the demonstration is missing. So the apprentice begins experimenting. Sometimes he builds something useful, sometimes the structure collapses. But every lesson costs time and frustration. For many modern men, masculinity was learned in that kind of empty workshop, guessing through adulthood. Because of this missing blueprint, many men enter adulthood feeling like they are constantly guessing their way through life. They guess how to handle relationships. They guess how to manage money. They guess how to deal with conflict. Sometimes those guesses work. Sometimes they fail spectacularly. Imagine a man handed the keys to a car but never taught how the dashboard works. The engine starts, the car moves, but the warning lights begin flashing one by one. The driver doesn't know which signals are urgent and which are routine, so he keeps driving. Sometimes that driver makes it safely to his destination. Other times the engine breaks down because the warning signs were misunderstood. Many men live their lives like that driver, moving forward, but always slightly unsure of whether they're steering correctly. The world sees the movement. The man feels the uncertainty. The psychological cost of trial and error, learning manhood through trial and error, comes with a psychological cost that many people don't see. Every mistake feels heavier when you believe you should have already known the answer. Every failed relationship feels like proof that something is missing inside you. Every financial setback feels like evidence that you're behind everyone else. Imagine two hikers trying to cross a mountain range. One hiker carries a detailed map showing the terrain, the rivers, and the safest paths through the valley. The other hiker has no map at all. Both hikers may eventually reach the other side, but the second hiker will likely experience more detours, more exhaustion, and more moments of doubt. That is the quiet weight many men carry. not weakness, not laziness. Just the accumulated fatigue of learning life without clear guidance. Let me share a simple parable to illustrate this idea. Imagine a young carpenter who decides to build his first house. He has the tools, he has the materials, even has the motivation to work hard. But he never saw the architectural plans. So he starts building from instinct. The walls go up. The roof eventually forms. The structure looks like a house from a distance, but when you step inside, the floors are slightly uneven. The doors don't close quite right. The windows tilt just enough to let the wind through. The house stands. Something about it feels crooked. Suddenly he understands why the beams must align a certain way and why the foundations must be level before anything else can be built. He realizes that his earlier mistakes were not because he lacked effort. They happened because he lacked the design. Many men spend years building their lives like that first house. Working hard, trying their best, but never quite sure why things don't align the way they hoped. So as we close episode 1, I want you to think about something honestly. Were there areas of life where you had to figure things out completely on your own? Maybe it was discipline. Maybe it was relationships. Maybe it was responsibility. The absence of a blueprint does not mean a man cannot build something strong. It simply means he may take a longer road to understanding the design. And the good news is this: awareness is the first step toward correction, but sometimes prevents them from truly growing. We're going to talk about what happens when men adapt to that lack of guidance by developing something called the survival mindset, a mentality that helps them endure life, but sometimes prevents them from truly growing. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Share the video with someone who might need this message. If you're serious about growing, learning, and becoming the kind of man who builds with intention, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the rest of the series. This is the Ordinary Guy 2.0, responsibility before ego. See you next time.